This is the final word. Women's Ashes Daily, the test in Melbourne, day one. Izzy Westbury and Geoff Lemon. The show is brought to you by CBUS Super. If you want to sort your super out, cbussuper.com.au. Figure out your retirement. They're the ones who know how to do it. Izzy, a day of test cricket. Did we get through 100 overs? Did we have the full 100 overs? If we did or if we didn't, tell me about it in 30 seconds.
We had way more overs than the men do, put it that way. It was all seen to start with, Kim Garth and Darcy Brown banging them in, but then a bit of resistance from England after a little collapse. Natsa Brunt made 50, very slow on at that, but that was all right. Alana King spin to win on a fourfer, should have had a fifer, didn't quite manage it. England all out for 170 in the end. Early wicket, Georgia Vol out for 12 on test debut, but by the end of it, 56 I think on the board. So what's that, about 100 odd behind. Good day's cricket.
112 behind with about 19 batters to come, the Australian lineup, the way that they've set it up, which we'll come to in a minute. It was kind of frustrating going at times. England, they grounded out. They batted for a long period of time. They couldn't get the score moving quickly enough to take advantage of how long they were out there in the middle. And they're in a position now which feels pretty familiar, which is that Australia should be able to control the game unless England can do something pretty special with the ball on day two.
Yeah, underwhelming, I think, and below par. We talk a lot in the men's game, certainly, about the impact of the pink ball and the way it suits the seam bowlers, but it's not quite the same in women's cricket. There's only been a couple of pink ball test matches. They've both been draws. Yes, one of them was a rain-affected match, but it doesn't have quite the venom, I think, in terms of the bowling lineup that it does in men's cricket. So actually, you're expecting better totals, bigger totals, especially on an MCG pitch. And really, it was spin that did the damage, as we've seen throughout this series. Alana King, she dropped a caught and bowled. I thought she had it. She could have been up there for the fifer, but a fourfer. She doubled her test wicket tally, so good day's work for her.
She's got 18 in the series at bugger all. I think it was 14 at 11 before today.
It's a bit like a Bumrah kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it was a Bumrah Border Gavaskar trophy, it might be Alana King's Ashes.
It might still be Alana King's Ashes. She's got time. When the number 11 gets run out when you're hunting for the fiver after you've already put down a catch for the five.
So rude, wasn't it?
I know, maybe it was just tactical by England. That was good psychological play. Make sure she doesn't get the 5-wicket haul.
But talking about King and how well she bowled, and we saw some good bowling as well from Ash Gardner, who's got a great test record with her off spinners. I was a bit upset that Australia, much as I am a big fan of Georgia Vol, she's going to do many great things with the bat in the future, I'm upset that they chose to pick an extra batter rather than a Georgia Wareham, because these two spinners together, they played them in the T20 side. That was a bit of an anomaly, but they picked them on form. So they picked the bowlers that England have struggled against, and England have struggled against Australia's wrist spinners. They were averaging, I think, 11, these two, Georgia Wareham and Alana King. To me, I think Australia, going into this test match, they want to break the history. They want to make history. They want to get that 16-0 whitewash. So what do you need to win? You need 20 wickets. That's the only thing between you and trampling all over England.
Yeah.
Your best opportunity to do that is with the spinners at hand. And even it's just, you might even say, okay, fine, pink ball, whatever. You went down to the pitch early morning. It was rough and furry and scraggly. It's not going to do much for the seamers for too much long. Bit like your beard. Well, yours is slightly more manicured, but your beard was more manicured than the pitch. I mean, that's saying something,
right?
That
is saying something.
So there you go. So I just think it's a lost opportunity. Don't get me wrong, Australia are up in this match and should win it, but I just think that they would have given themselves a better opportunity to do so if they'd picked Georgia Wareham.
Sometimes you've got to criticise, the hunt for perfection matters. And I was critical of the 11 they picked today. People are saying, oh, you're an idiot, they bowled them out for 170. Yeah, they did. It doesn't really matter in a way who Australia picked. They could pick whatever configuration they want and they'd still probably be ahead. But I am going to raise this point. So Healy has been wandering around with a moon boot on, sore foot, all the rest of it. And what does Healy do? She keeps and she opens the batting. Those are the two jobs she usually does. And in tests, they said, well, you can't open because you're the keeper. It's harder. Bat down the order. More recently, she's been batting down the order. And then today they said, well, you're fit enough to play, but you're not fit enough to open the batting. How does that work? And you're also not fit enough to keep. So you're going to bat at 5. Mooney's going to keep, which means she can't open, so she's going to bat at 6. So we need an opener. So we're going to get Vol to open, but we're also not going to drop any of our batters, because Perry has to play, Sutherland has to play, Gardner has to play because she bowls, and McGrath has to play because she whacks the ball. So they've got Talia McGrath at number 8. It's a very unbalanced side.
But this is, I think, the main issue for me. I don't really care who they pick to open the batting and whether Healy's pushed down the order. I think playing Healy was important, and it is important because she's got that experience, that leadership, etc. She's also, by the way, got a highest test score of 99, so she's looking for those.
She can bat in test matches.
But she's looking for that century. Absolutely. I've got no problem with that. And I guess they picked Georgia Vol because she's the next bat off the cab rank, so to speak. And she just also happens to be a really good opener. So I don't mind it from that perspective. I mind it that they've picked an extra batter because, as you say, the fact that Talia McGrath, who's a wonderful bat, is down the order. They don't need any more batters, but they want as many potential wicket takers as possible.
I mind it in terms of the way it reads to me is that they said, well, Healy has to play because she's the senior player and the captain, and so we have to find a way to get her in. Okay, well, in that case, she has to open. And if she's not going to open, you have to drop Talia McGrath or somebody. You have to leave somebody out. Because leaving Wareham out as somebody who can bat as well, if you've got Wareham at 8 and King at 9, they're 8s and 9s who can make half centuries. You know, they're proper players with the bat, and this just felt like a sentimental choice that Healy has to play by hook or by crook. We've got to find a way to get her in, and this team's talked about being ruthless, and I don't think that's ruthless. I think that's compromising the makeup of your side. Even though you are better than England, you're likely to win, you should win, but you're still just dicking around a bit with how you should put an 11 together.
So I think we're probably along the same lines as they picked an extra batter and they didn't have to. I probably wouldn't have picked Vol, perhaps you wouldn't have picked Healy. Either way, I mean, it is almost pedantic, semanticism, etc. Because at the end of the day, Australia are ahead, should win this match.
Well, I think either you're fit to play or you're not fit to play. And if you can't open the batting, what's the difference between opening or batting at 5? If you can't open, you're not fit to play, in my personal opinion. Anyway, it didn't matter because, well, I mean, Kim Garth comes out and she does the thing that Kim Garth does, which is take a couple at the top, gets the seam away. Poor old Maya Bouchier. We talked about the quandary of, do you pick her on the fact that she made a Test 100 in her last hit, or do you not pick her on the fact that she hasn't made a run against Australia in the series? They did pick her. She didn't make a run. Nicks off early, and then it's the one coming back into Heather Knight, isn't it? That's Garth's second wicket.
Well, on Bouchier, I'm really surprised that they picked her just because she's been cooked this series and she's a young player at the start of her career. I don't think that's going to do her any favours. So, wrong decision. I mean, the counter-argument to that is, who do you pick, considering that none of England's batters have fired throughout the series? Okay, another issue. But that Heather Knight wicket was fabulous. It actually reminded me of the way that Jimmy Anderson used to set up batters, like a little away swing, bang, in swing, but executed perfectly as well. And that's what we've got in Kim Garth. And this is why she's a captain's dream. It's because she knows a plan, she's a sensible, she's an intelligent cricketer. She's not the best in the world, but she knows what skill set she has and she can execute. Heather Knight was just getting going. She had a really important partnership there with Siva Bryant. I think they made 50 together. Like, this was the one which had knowledge, it had experience. They've both scored big runs in longer form cricket, and she got her out at a crucial moment. All I'll say as an English person, how on earth do we let Kim Garth sail to the other side of the world when she's just right next door?
If there's one thing England's good at, it's stealing Irish players.
Well, not in this case.
And how did Australia steal? She's the best Irish Australian player in the world by a long distance.
The one that got away.
Now, Darcy Brown playing, I thought there's a strong case to pick Megan Shute with the swing with the pink ball, but Brown gets Tammy Beaumont for 8, which is exactly 200 fewer than Tammy Beaumont made last time she played Australia. So that was significant as well. And then there's the point where you know, like you say, Siva Brunt fights her way to 51, and then Alana King happens in the way that Alana King happens. A ball that turns, that maybe keeps a bit low, that sort of goes across and pitches and turns back across the right-hander, has her play across the line, misses it, gets bowled, and that's when England really start to slide.
And there was a lovely bit of sort of, I don't know, nostalgia and history, because of course this is the first opportunity that women have had to play a test match at the MCG for 76 years. they're playing it at Shane Warne's home ground, and there's a stand named after him, and there's a leg spinner ripping through England's attack. It was kind of romantic tonight to watch that, I thought.
And proper leg spin wickets as well. So she gets the dangerous players. She gets Dunkley, she gets Wyatt Hodge. They're leg spin wickets. There's the return catch. There's the snare at Silly Point with Litchfield, and later she gets Eccleston driving one to cover. You know, they're not junk wickets. They're wickets taken in the way that a leg spinner would want to take them, with drawing those shots with the ball moving across the right-handers.
Absolutely. And you also think that King has had such a good series. She seems to be at the prime of her game. But I actually think, looking at the way she took the wickets tonight, there's so much more to come, because the wickets that she got, the variation was in the flight. It was in the release point, the flight, but it wasn't really in terms of the one that goes the other way or an arm ball. She hasn't developed those in her repertoire
I so
yet.
wanted her to bowl the wrong end to Lauren Bell at the end, right hand and number 11, not to crash hot with the bat. I was like, just bowl the wrong end.
Right, but she's still developing and working on that, and she's not the finished product. And that's what is so exciting with someone like Alana King, because she has the confidence in her stock deliveries and in that variation of flight and a little bit of speed sometimes. The one to get Nat Sibber-Brunt with slightly quicker, flatter delivery. But there's so much more that she's still working on. And that's what excites me. She's in her late 20s. As a spinner, she's got so much more time in the game. And throughout this series, women's cricket does tend to attract a much younger crowd, but it's both boys and girls. And in the past, it would be fans of Elise Perry and Elisa Healy, who are fantastic players to be fans of. But now kids want to be Alana King. And how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, you want to be a leg spinner. You want to, there are so many 35 to 50-year-old wannabe leg spinners in Australia now who are all the Shane Warne era. And you want that next era. You want people trying to rip it and landing them at third slip and landing them at fine leg and eventually finding out how to hit the pitch.
Well, what a wonderful person to hand over that legacy to.
So Gardner slides one through Amy Jones cheaply. Darcy Brown gets another one when Filer pops up her catch that about 3 players could have taken. They all hesitate, they all look at each other, and eventually...
Good catch by Vol.
Yeah, well, she had to run in late and dive forward from slip and managed to take it in the end. And then there's that bit with Rihanna McDonald-Gay, who was not out at the end, tapping a few around with Bell, and that tension of could King get the 5th one, and puts the catch down, the caught and bowled, and all the rest of it. So they get to 170, and then...
One thing to mention, Elise Perry.
Didn't bowl.
But off the field as well, with a little sore hip, I think it was. She was diving over to get a boundary ball. I think that was in the afternoon session.
Right.
Didn't see her for the rest of the day. Word came out. She didn't walk out to bat at number 3, which she was supposed to. Annabelle Sutherland came out instead. And word from Cricket Australia is that she was not going to come out again tonight. They're going to reassess in the morning.
Okay, interesting.
She's early to mid-30s. She's been around a lot and diving and tumbling a lot. I mean, it's going to be... That'll be a serious something.
She's still very, very mobile, as we saw with that run out the other day in the T20 match. So, yeah, they bowled Sutherland a bit. They didn't need to bowl Perry. Perry's the leading wicket taker in Women's Ashes cricket, not required to bowl.
Well, I'm the leading run scorer, though, so,
Yeah, well, she's both. But, not needed. Talia McGrath wasn't needed, so they pretty much used the main 4 that they had with Gardner and then the 2 quicks and the leg spinner. And then Australia rattle up 50. Vol comes out, smokes a boundary through cover, which was a fun start. Well, 2 off her first ball in Test cricket, and then the boundary comes a couple of overs later. She gets out for 12, caught off Lauren Bell, but that's it for England as they get to the close. So, yeah, they're in a rough position if they can't find a way to get wickets early tomorrow.
Yeah, Annabelle Sutherland got off the mark with glorious cover drives. Her record in Test cricket is absolutely absurd. Double century here, unbeaten century there. So I think that'll be the key wicket. Interesting thing is she's never batted it higher than 6. So we saw her come in and bat at number 3, taking a bit of responsibility. Phoebe Litchfield has struggled for runs this series. She wasn't very fluent today, ate up a lot of balls. So, there's hope for England. But again, it so often is the hope that kills you, right? And that hope that has accompanied the start of every single part of this series has been very, very quickly extinguished. So I haven't got too much hope.
You heard it here first. Phoebe Litchfield, rock chewer, can't get off strike. No, it was the evening session, so it's fine. She can get through. She can ton up tomorrow, like Josh Inglis did today on debut in Sri Lanka.
Another one that got away, by the way.
Well, yeah, should have.
Yorkshire zone.
probably, who knows what he would have been doing if he'd been wearing the 3 lions. We'll come to some Hall of Fame stuff. The Afghanistan women's team, we're going to talk about that as well in a moment. Just a reminder that Maurice Blackburn is the number one plaintiff law firm in Australia. If you need legal advice, they're the ones to go to. Often it's no win, no fee. That's the kind of place they are. They look after working people. Maurice Blackburn, look them up. They're on the internet. You'll figure it out. Hall of Fame in a second. It is the final word. It's the Women's Ashes Daily, the Hall of Fame. You were there this morning, I was there this morning, hours and hours before they played at the MCG. The Afghanistan women's team, who are the players in exile in Australia.
Well, the ICC, I'm sure, would like us to say that it's the Afghanistan Cricket 11 or something. If we call it the actual Afghanistan women's cricket team, I'm sure we'll be banned from cricket for life or something.
It was a team made up of the contracted Afghanistan women's players who had to flee the country when the Taliban took over. So they're in Australia. They haven't had a chance to play together as an 11. They came together as an 11. They played a charity side, the Cricket Without Borders 11. They had a decent sort of match in the end. They made 103, which was reasonable going, if not for a barbecue of their highest run scorer, who was cruising on 40 at the time. They might have made more. And it got a little bit jazz hat at the end with the chase, with the Cricket Without Borders 11 retiring some players and giving other players a bat, but they did push it into the last over and then took a wicket off the first ball of the last over with 2 runs to defend. And just for a minute, you're like, well, they could make this pretty interesting here. In the end, there was one slashed over backward point by the appropriately named player Carton, just carting it over backward point for 4. Nonetheless, they played. Their support was so vocal. Every time they saved a run in the field, every dot ball in the field was greeted by cheers. Every single. It was such a lovely atmosphere down there at Junction Oval this morning. Getting that team, seeing that team get to play, and all the family and friends going out and swamping them on the field after the game, the presentations. All the players were here afterwards. They were invited to a Cricket Australia function downstairs as guests of honour and were feted there as well. So it felt like a really special day.
Oh, it was an incredible event, and the greater the good of not just Australian cricket, but Australian politics was there as well. I mean, it's from an English perspective, it's incredibly frustrating because you watch Australia dominate as cricketers on the field this whole summer, but it turns out that you're pretty ruddy, great people as well, and diplomats.
We're actually nice.
Well, in general, you're doing a job that, frankly, the ICC should have stepped up and done and have not. And some of the things that people, individuals, I think of your Mel Jones, Catherine Ordway, that they have, they were the ones that spent so much time off their own back, money, everything else that they have with them, and then nous and acumen, contacts, etc., to get these players out of Afghanistan in the first place, get the visas for them and their immediate family, location, logistics, etc., huge amount of jeopardy. This is the Taliban we're talking about. Get them here, resettle them. They're now playing in various cricket clubs around Melbourne, around Canberra, and trying to sort of restart their lives on the cricket pitch and off it. It is an amazing story, but it's one that's just beginning. And the calibre of cricket is only going to improve. This is the Afghanistan women's cricket team. You were right. I don't care what the ICC say. I don't care that it contravenes some stupid ICC rule, because guess what? It also contravenes the ICC's rules and regs to have a test cricket nation that doesn't do anything to develop women's cricket. But hey, details.
Yeah.
It really, really well done, Cricket Australia. I think the rest of the world can learn a lot from it. It is incredibly heartening. I'm looking forward to the rest of the story with that team.
I don't think the ICC have any credibility to make any rulings or judgments on anything to do with it at this particular point. Hall of Fame for me, I got to meet Catherine Fitzpatrick downstairs. Her and Zoe Goss were my 2 heroes in the women's team. I got to say, thanks for bowling gas and smashing stumps out of the ground. And so that was enjoyable.
I think my Hall of Fame was sitting in the green room with Mike Hussey and Brad Haddon talking about Alana King and asking what they would have done if they saw a leg spinner a la Shane Warne in this vein of form coming at you and what shots you were going to play. So they were directly comparing King to Warne, and it was kind of a pinch me moment. It was absolutely gorgeous. 2 of the greats of the game, Mr. Cricket himself, aligning Alana King with Shane Warne. You don't get much better than that.
My Hall of Fame was, so a few wickets fell at the end of the Afghanistan innings, so everyone got a hit, which was nice. Everyone got to walk to the middle. So the number 11 came to the middle with one ball remaining. She was at the non-striker's end. And then, I don't know how or why this happened, she went, hang on a minute, and then went back and called to the bench and asked them for, waved and signalled. I was like, what does she want? And they ran out and they brought her a helmet. So she had the pads on and the gloves on. I'm like, you don't even need the pads or the gloves. You just need the bat. You're just running. There's one ball to go. All you need to do is run as fast as you can. Called for the helmet and put the helmet on. It's got to have the lid on in case, I don't know, the striker smacks one back at you.
Yeah, always prepared. And you want to have the full experience. Good for her.
I loved that. They ran 2 in the end, and she might have been quicker without the helmet, but they got home. So, yeah, a big day at the Junction Oval and a big day at the MCG. I think that's enough from us. We'll be back for day 2. Thanks to CBUS and Maurice Blackburn. If you want to be part of the show, patreon.com/thefinalword. Thanks to Izzy Westbury. I'm Geoff Lemon. This is The Final Word Daily. We'll see you next time.